to show you how to grind your gouges, and you'll have much more enjoyment with it. I'm also just going to pass around these two things that I made many years ago when I gave a talk to this club. And it shows you the names of the things which confuse lots of us who've been turning for a while. And certainly for the beginners, when people start talking about OGs and beads and ovals and all its scotches, tulip or OGs, these sort of things. And show, again, if you made a level. So I'm just going to pass those round for the people who are starting out. That will give you an idea. Because although we'll be talking about spheres today, a bead is half a sphere, a ball. So it's all relevant. Now, there's a number of methods that people use to make balls or spheres, if you're going to look it up on Google. But some of them is you make a template. And it can be just out of hardboard is probably good, but I made these out of so that would be for something like that. So you keep turning it until you're within that. Not unless you're good at it. I don't think that's the best method. The second method that I'm going to show you today is to basically with a little bit of math via geometry and cutting straight lines and then a little bit of shear scraping, you can get nigh on. I wouldn't say they're perfect because they do move a bit sometimes, but these balls over the years. And balls, to be quite honest, we've got a set of a very nice bowl in the middle of our kitchen table full of different balls with different woods. And if you get nice woods like yew and some of the foreign woods, if you can get little bits, because you only need things that size to do a ball. They do look really nice. There's also other things. Some people, and if you go on Pinterest or another, they'll put something like that on an elaborate little pedestal. And again, that involves your coves and your different things that you've got on there. But as I say, so the method I'm going to show tonight is that method. Apparently, I didn't know this, but it's called the Sorby method. And if you go onto YouTube, I haven't watched it yet. I've kept meaning to, but never got round to it. That is a good one to throw up on YouTube, the Sorby method. There's another method which, again, it involves measurements, but you actually work out, it's quite easy to do. You don't have to be good at maths, I'm terrible. But you do a series of parting lines in there to the depths that you've worked out what the spear would be. And as again, YouTube would show you. I've never tried that method. I don't think it's that good. And then probably the method again is, I don't know whether we've got one, Malcolm. Have we got a spear jig?
We got rid of it because nobody used it.
Oh, right.
So we've got sold off.
Oh, they're quite expensive, but you know, if you do a lot of spheres, and if you're even, you know, tiny beads and things, it might be worthwhile. But I'll just put these. Don't be disappointed when you start for the beginners if you end up with that, because you only got to make an egg cup and then you've got the egg. But that's how most of us, unless we were particularly astute, our first spheres tended to be like that, unless you use the method I'm going to show you. Before you do any spindle turning or between centres, there's all different names, that's why I'm standing there. You need to do the kiss test on your lathe, and I did it. This is a stab centre in there, but you'd normally do it with your drive spur. You get the 2 points coming up together, and this aligns perfect. if you've got, most of the lathes have got movable headstocks like this, I think. Mine certainly has at home. Most of them, even the cheaper ones. And if you find that you're not lining up, then you need to get a spanner and just get this headstock. There's some lathes, the very old ones, where you can't. You know, if they don't line up, well, they don't line up. But you won't get good results if one's there and one's slightly there. So again, they call it the kiss test, the two points kissing together. I didn't realise it's got a little bit of a split in, but I don't think it will matter. We're going to turn the spear today, so depending on the size of the ball that you want, probably a little bit longer than that. That's about 3.5, just under 4 inches. Whatever size you want. I mean, if you're doing a big one like I was showing you there, and you've got a nice piece of wood like that silver birch, which was marked well, you can get round it by gluing with hot melt glue or any glue, but hot melt glue is perfectly all right. Onto the dead, you need to get the centres right, so you'd be turning that between there, because you need to get 2 spigots either end like that, whatever you're going to do. You can do it between centres, but I'm not going to do that tonight. The benefits of not doing it between 2 centres is because one end is held in the chuck with a chucking point, a spigot, you can in fact finish the right hand end. To finish the other end, I'll show you on that, but you need to make little cuts. They're easy to make. But so I've done the kiss test on that, and I've obviously already put a spigot on it. You need to get the ends square, and I put a spigot on that and turned it to the round just to get, you know, speed things up a little bit today. So I'll take that out, and again, as some of you, I find it quite handy. This is just a small, I've forgot what it calls it now anyhow, but stab centre, and I've made sure it's in the centre. I've turned a little bit of wood, and that fits into these O'Donnell jaws, which are quite versatile jaws, and it doesn't mean like you can't put a drive. When I'm talking about a drive, I'm talking about a spur drive, something like that just goes into some chucks. You can put it in and you can tighten on it, but certainly quite a lot of them, and this one you can't. So if you do get the opportunity, it is extremely handy, because you don't have to keep taking the chuck off and knocking out the whatever and so on. So I'm just putting this into the chuck. You do need to make sure it's nice and tight. I just use an old box spanner to put a bit more leverage on it. I always think of my old science teacher in the 50s, Mr. Theobald, taught us about physics and how to get extra leverage and fulcrums and all sorts of things. I always think about him when I do that. I'm going to bring the tailstock up for the time being. This has got a stab revolving centre in the tailstock. Again, about mid-high. You need to be, when you're cutting, you need to be cutting on the roughly just above the centre line. So if you think, if you're putting your gouge on there, that part needs to be roughly about the centre line. If you're doing certain things, and Barry will tell you this, with the skew chisel, then you need to be a little bit higher, and if you're scraping or shear scraping or what, then a bit lower. But that's all very good. I don't know whether we still have books now, but if you don't need books now, I've got about 30 or 40 at home. Never read them all, but you don't need a book these days. You just Google it, and then you go onto YouTube, and somebody shows you how to do it. but it's worth sort of looking at that. So all I'm going to do, because although I have centered it, forgive me a bit, I'm not familiar with this. I always think with a lathe, you turn, unless there's certain stuff like we're going to be doing in the second half where you're off center, I always think you turn at the fastest speed that you can. By turning at a fast speed, you get a better cut. You'll soon see if it's out of balance, because it will start even that little one. So I'm just going to bring it up out of balance. So again, with beginners, keep saying to yourself all the time, keep my handle low. So many people bring it up and you find they're like that and then they get higher. But you keep your handle low, you put it on the rest, you get your bevel rubbing, and then you just lift it up and you get your cut. And if you find you've made a mistake and you get a catch, you immediately drop your handle. So keep telling yourself, keep my handle low. I have to tell myself that. And again, when you want this to be straight, so this is the horizon. You're not looking at this bit, you're looking at the horizon to make sure it's straight. There is a little, this is the tiny bit of math, and it's the only thing you need to remember. There are other measurements that do exactly the same, these sort of algorithms, but the one you've got to remember in your head, if you're going to do this method, is 0.414 times whatever the diameter is. So there's nowhere in a month of Sundays I could ever work that out, but it's 0.414, and I need to find out what the diameter is. So the diameter it's 63. So it's 0.414 times 63. 26.082. Don't bother about the, it's just the 26 that we want. Find the center of your, find the center of your piece, your project. Doesn't have to be dead accurate at this stage. So it's 45. So again, just mark a line in the center, like so. I'm just going to check that measurement again, because I think I pressed something twice, but I'm sure I'm right. So bear with me. So what I need to do now is that on that center line is to mark 26 either side of the line. If you want to be dead accurate, then you just divide it by 2 and you do each side. But I would suggest you can get it right by just, and you can allow both sides of your verniers at this stage. Never do it if you're doing it that way, but this way you can. And they need to be just marked either side. Something I didn't say is I'm just marking the 63, which is the diameter. Yeah. You need now to turn the two spigots on these two lines down to that 26 mil. So you have two spigots either side of the diameter of your spear. Tell me if I'm going wrong with this, Barry, will you? Don't try and do the full width all in one go. If you don't, you can use calipers, which are a bit safer than this. But if you get it to roughly where you need it, you can do it. If you feel happier, just do it and keep stopping the lathe. But it's quite easy if you hold these. And the same the other side. I'm going to be handing round some bits and pieces that will show you exactly what we're doing at each stage. What I'm going to be doing is making this into a octagon with 8 sides. And this is where you just need your straight lines. Now I'm not going to do it, Clive will be doing that with a skew chisel, making a good job of it. I'm just going to use an ordinary spindle gauge. And you, just for the new ones, you measure if somebody says it's like a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch, or whatever the metric equivalent is, most of them are measured from the width of the flute, so not from the whole bar. So sometimes they look bigger when you say it's a 1/4 inch. It's because you've got a heavy bar with it. But anyhow, what we're going to do, and you need straight lines on this. So the fault you may make when you're starting off doing this is that you go into concave. Try and avoid that. It needs to be straight, so take it in small parts. Again, you can sort of shear scrape, handle them, remember. A little bit noisy, but it doesn't hurt. It does take the edge off a bit though. It's probably better if you're starting off to have a slightly bigger one, particularly if you're working near the chuck, but it's all right the way I'm doing it. But you do need your tools to be sharp. So all we've done, just to recap, is find your centre of your ball, mark the two widths of the diameter so that it's the same there, and then just do your two spigots, which again come to the same difference as this, 26. So you need to get down to that. It may seem a little bit confusing, but I've jumped ahead of myself. That's how we started off. Could you, Jerry, if you wouldn't mind? And that's the second stage where we are. So you'll see what we've done. And it doesn't look much like a ball, does it? I hope it turns out like a ball. And that's the second stage. Sorry, just bear with me for a minute. What we do now with the pencil, and again, you can measure it, but most of us would do it by guessing. You put a black line there in the centre of one of the octagons, and another one there. So we're basically at that stage now, which is the third stage, where I've put the extra lines on. You use whatever colour you want, but I'm just going to use, I think it's red, but it's the only one I had. So again, in the centre of those lines, the black lines, you put red lines. Once you've done one or two of these, you won't need to put all these lines on, just the black ones, and you can do it from that. So that's where we are now. Sorry, Jerry. That's the fourth stage. Now again, you now take your spigots down to roughly half the size they are. A guess is perfectly all right. Careful with this end, because once you part it off, you'll need a little bit more chunky this end to hold your ball on the lathe in the chuck. There's your straight lines, and you've nearly got a ball. So all we're going to do is cut between those straight lines. So between the red one, this side, going across, again, straight lines, keep them straight. Between the red lines that side, between the red, I've gone a little bit concave there, which is a pain. And now between the red line, you'll have to do this one again. A little bit noisy. Again, I'm just going to use a skew chisel sharp But you could use a scraper. You could use the side of your gauge if you keep the handle down. But again, it's just a matter of keeping that in the trailing position, which is this way. We refer to it as the trailing position. So again, leave the centre mark. The centre mark doesn't come off at this stage. I haven't put the spigot big enough that end, so if I'd left a bit more room here, I had a slightly bigger piece of wood, I could have got this skew chisel in. It can be any size, it can be a small skew or a larger skew. Again, if you used your, they're quite handy at this stage. Sorry, it's gone down in between. Depending on the size of your, you could use that, or indeed some people use half of that, and they use that for going, I mean obviously this is too big, but if you wanted to say this is a, 63 inches, which is 63 is about 2.5 inches ball. If you want them all the same, there are ways of doing it, and I'll discuss that, but it's not easy. But if you're putting them in a bowl, they look, I think, look better than the eggs in the bowl than that. But particularly if you get nice. Keep looking at your horizon. That's what you've got to look at. I've gone a little bit wrong on this end, but it doesn't matter if you don't want it an exact size. As I say, if I'd made a template exactly for that size, it would have helped me to get, you know, a more perfect shape. But that's basically doing the ball. If you feel it like that, you can feel some of the high points. There's a high point there. Your fingers are the best thing in the world for feeling. Yeah, that'll come off with sandpaper. So if I would suggest we use an hacksaw to take the stubs off. You can get them down a bit with the cut the ball as close to the edge of the ball without allowing the blade to mark the ball. So if we're going to take it off about there, I could have parted that off quite easily, but if you're a beginner, it's probably better to take the strain off that end. Hold the ball when you're doing it, particularly if you've gone very thin here. It's surprising, we did balls last year, I think it was, and I must be honest, maybe I'm wrong, but there were different people doing different methods. Richard did one and somebody, but I thought the best one was Paul's. He did it just by eye. But so you can do it, but as I say, if you're going to do it by eye, then I would suggest you use a template on this.
Yeah, you can use one eye. Only use one eye.
Oh, right.
Thank you, Harvey.
You can do this. I wouldn't do it with a skew chisel if you're just starting out in life, but you can take it off just about there. And the rest is sandpaper. Sandpaper's a tool. It's not just, and don't be afraid to use whatever grit you want. I've got 40 and 60 at home. And sometimes it pays to, well, that wasn't very clever. I thought that was 80, but it's not, it's 400. And that's 230. Oh, here's 180. Again, sometimes it's you can, I hope you don't snap off, but this is an old hole cutter that I've taken the teeth off. I use it for, I've got a lot of homemade sanding arbors, and I've got different sizes of the old things. I just put in the drill press and put down on the sandpaper, and it cuts it out just to the size of whatever they are. But you can use this, and again, use it very quietly, very gingerly. You need a bigger one for a ball this size, really. You can see the shavings, and it probably isn't sharp enough. You don't, this is just, I don't very often use these. Although for those little cannonballs over there, I don't think I brought it with me. I just used a small bit of aluminium tube off one of the old chairs that we were going to throw away, and I just used them in a straight line, just gently, quickly, in seconds, turned a slight shape of a ball, and then just used it to, and although they wouldn't stand a lot of scrutiny, but most of them look the same size. I don't know whether this is a smaller one, but from what I've read in the past, they suggest you use, for doing something like this, you use something like any metal pipe. I've done it with copper pipe, but of course that doesn't hold the edge for long, copper. But if you can get an old steel pipe, galvanised pipe or anything, even aluminium, but or something like that, and you just put it onto your sanding pad, on your grinder or wherever, at a very low angle, I think about 10%. I was good at catching villains, but I was never very good at angles. And just put a slight edge on it, and you'll find I'm not going to push my luck too much, but if you had a slightly bigger one, it does help, and it will get you the shape without so much sanding. Sorry, I'm just looking for something. I can't find it. I sometimes use, you know, the cover for pipes. You put around your copper pipes to keep them from freezing. I sometimes use little bits of that. I thought I bought some, but I can't see it. That actually helps to keep you could use the sanding pad on your electric drill or on those little hand bits. So it's a matter of sanding it, and the line will come off. But that line has to stay there and come off. Well, I say has to. It will come off with the sanding. Again, with your fingers, that is round, that bit, up to there. It's bumpy from here. This is 120 I'm using, but if you needed, use 60. As long as you go through the grits, and each time you go through the grits, you actually stop the lathe and look to see whether you've got sanding marks. So if you're starting off at, say, 80, which I suspect a lot of us do, stop the lathe and see how bad the sanding marks are. If they're too bad, then do it very lightly a bit more. But don't go on. There's nothing worse than doing your project and then you get to 400 grit or 320 grit and you shine the light on it and you can see, and you know somebody like John French is going to say, you've got sanding marks on that competition piece. He can be a right terror. But it's even if you're doing it for yourself, sanding is, I suspect, the thing that most of us dislike. I don't like sanding. I have a little, I've got a little arm there that fits on the end of my lathe. It's a heavy duty lathe. And fixed on the top of there is an old fan that I've just adapted. And I use that. I wear a respirator and a mask, like I'm sure most of us do. But that actually blows the dust away. I didn't feel it appropriate to have the fan on today, going over to you boys and girls. And but keep your sandpaper moving. I'm not going to spend too long on it because again now up to there it's a sphere. It's as smooth as anything. This side needs more. You've lost your centre mark now with your centre line, which you needed to keep. I do have an extractor there though, and one of those microcleans above me, so you can see the dust. I have the funnel bit here, and you can, with the fan, you can just see, everything gets dusty in the workshop. I'm sure we all think, Christ, are we still breathing that in? But with the respirators and everything else, it takes most of it away. And I've got the collection point in a storeroom which is adjacent to my workshop. I must admit, I've got a lovely workshop. It's really an annex on the house, and it's got central heating and double windows, and you know, you've got so much light. And an attic above it, which I've got enough wood in there for lifetime, so if any of you are desperately short of wood, give me a call, because I cannot see at my age I'm ever going to be able to use it all. But it's all dry as well. I'll just give it a little bit more on that. I'm not saying this is perfect, but it's nigh on. Well, it is this end anyhow. That's the benefit of, I'm not going to do any more on that, you can see there. That is the benefit of having a chucking point rather than two spigots between centres, between your spur points and what else have you. I need to take a little bit more off this end. If you use the scooters or for beginners, you only use up to there. If you go past there, you will get a spiral and it will spiral back over here and put awful. I still get that now occasionally. So if you are using a scooters, no matter how wide or small it is, if you're starting out with it, Barry will well, he's gone. He's had enough already. Mark it in black the bit you shouldn't go to. So when I'm taking a bit off that end there then, I'm looking at the bevel there, so the bevel touches the wood, but these top bits are not touching the wood. If that touched the wood, it would do that, and the ball you'd end up with a ball about an inch big instead of the size you want. You've got to be a bit careful now because you're getting close to the spigot for holding the ball. Again, I would suggest, if you're starting off with them, that you cut them off with an hacksaw as opposed to parting them off. Actually, it's strange. It's got a little bit of a flat on that bit there. What a shame. I couldn't feel that. Anyhow, this is only an example. There's two ways, well, more than two, but I'm going to show you two ways of getting that off. That needs to be rounded and the stub taken off. The way I first tried it, and how I'm going to show you now, is we'd put in two little cups either end. You have to keep moving the ball round, but that comes with experience. So, just thinking, well, I've got them. Well, there are different ways, and I'll show you. This is one way. It looks difficult, but I made that years ago when I made a pair of flamingos. Still got them in the lounge. They look really good. But a flamingo was obviously...
Oh, we all like flamingos,
yeah. Anyhow, it does the same with the ball. So I could put that ball in here. Oh, that's come out. Never mind. I could put that's a ball. I could put it in there, put it on there, and then make this end bit, and that would be the safest way to do it. It looks like there's a lot of work in it, but there really isn't. Can I pass that round, please? And again, these were for eggs, holding eggs, but it's the same for balls. If you want things of a certain size, again, with ordinary, sorry, Jerry, I shouldn't keep. Plumber now. Now this is one way of doing it, is you make, I'll pass these round. Oh. Hey?
Would you like these back?
Yes, please. No. You couldn't get that for me, could you? I've got a brace on my knee and I can't bend. It's just gone under there. Sorry about that. Like a lot of us old boys, my left knee's gone. I have to wear a brace on it. It's a job to bend right down. Again, one fits on the end of your tailstock there. Thank you.
Harvey, put these in there.
Yes, please. And the other one goes in your chuck. I've got them all of different sizes. Revolving centre was the word that escaped me. I'll pass these round. Sorry, Jerry. Could you take over from Jerry?
Call me Jack.
Eh?
Call me Jack.
Jack.
Jack in the book. Up and down.
You won't have a thrombosis, though. That's the good thing about it. They're simple to make, and you use different sizes for different things. But you may think there's, that you not a lot of call for spheres or balls, but they do look nice on various things. Yeah, flamingos look even better. Yeah.
I think a lot of the clubs moved on to doing giraffes, though.
I'll try a giraffe. Excuse me, I just wanted to. I will do it. That's just a couple of examples. It doesn't look, I was going to do that to come here, but I just run out of time. Done with different coloured balls, it looks stunning. The picture was in colour, but I didn't have enough colour on the printer. But you just do your half a sphere, cut one in half for your base, and then you put these at different angles, and you normally put a very thin pin type nail in, tiny little hole, about 1.5 mil. No, I was going to do it to come here, but I ran out of time. And again, that's how they look in the bowl. I think that's the one off our kitchen table. So with the ball, it isn't easy. It's a bit of trial and error with this. So I do prefer another method. So it's a matter of holding the thing between centres. This one fits on the revolver. I put a little magnet in the end of these, but and you need to get it in the centre. And the idea is, that's fairly straight. The idea is that you take the stub off the spigot. No, they've got an O-ring of different sizes and a tiny bit of leather glued into it. Jerry, one more, the last one. That was your finished article. So it's a matter of, the only problem I find doing it this way, you can mark the ball if you don't get it running exactly right. So what I'm not going to do to it, so that would just say take off your, you can see, they call this picture here ghosting. I can see it, but I can't see a stub. All I can see is a ghost stub, I haven't taken that, so you can, I was doing it right on that, but you can do it that way if you're careful, very light cuts. But the way, I must admit, which I think is easier, than this is, you don't need what I've got. You can make a wooden one. But I've got a little, I use this in a small chuck thing that I bought from, I think it was probably eBay. And this has these little sanding pads I was telling you about that I cut sometimes using that thing. I've got it stuck on the end, but I have got some. All you need to make is just an end the size of what your pad was going to be. Stick a bit of Velcro on the end of the wood, flat, and then put your different grades on. That's 180. And what I do, I find it easy with this because I've got lots of this type of things that I made. This is a bought one, but you can make them all different sizes I've got. Saves you having to keep pulling it off, and sometimes you pull the Velcro with it. So again, I find that this, I think, is easier, and then finishing it off by hand. So it's just a matter of holding the ball and keeping it on the move. You must keep it on the move. Oh, it's got stuck on there now. And it's just a matter of holding the ball and moving it. Once it gets up to speed, it does sort of run fairly straight. But as I say, you could have put it on there without having that thing on, and just put or glue your sandpaper on, but it's more difficult. And again, you keep your ball moving. But as I say, wear a mask. This is yew. It's a lovely, beautiful wood with the white. Try not to go on to the actual bit of the ball that you've probably sanded already. And as I say, if you need to use a 40 grit, use it, and then go down the grits. And then it's just a matter of sanding. I usually use a pad. I thought I bought them, but I can't see it. But the pads from Screwfix, they're really good. I can't see it, but it's just a matter then of getting your sandpaper and sanding by hand to get that last bit off. There's one more method I did forget to tell you about. I'm not going to sand it anymore, you can feel it, yeah, is that some people, they use this ghosting method. They get I tried it, but it wasn't successful. They have a light somehow shining down here, and they have a piece of white paper or card on the bench, on the lathe bed, I should say, and you see the shadow of your thing. And on the white pad, you draw your sphere, a circle or half circle, whatever size you wanted, say 2.5 inches, on the pad that's clipped onto your lathe bed. and you'll turn it and you'll see the shadow. It will start off obviously as the round piece, and then the shadow will come, and if you can do it, I've seen people do it, and then you'll do a similar method to what I did, but go in by freehand, and then with your scraper or your skewer chisel in a scraping mode, and you'll get it, and you'll see if you're good at it. It takes a bit of practice. You'll see you can get your sphere perfectly with the shadow to fit in that half or full circumference you've made of your thing, you know, with a protractor. Anyhow, thank you very much.
Well done, thank you.
What I'm going to demonstrate now and show you is the Robert Sorby Eccentric chuck. And when we say eccentric chuck, we're talking about off-centre. There's various names, multifaceted and all these sorts of things, but it's called an eccentric chuck. And what it does is, and I'll pass some of these round, there's many things it can do, but the one I'm going to demonstrate tonight is this one. Sorry, mate.
How did I know that was for me?
Oh. This was no, I'm not passing this one round. This was a finial also I did in the competition the other day for a box. Quite a nice little box that turned out to be. And if I get time, and I probably won't, that's one I did many years ago without this chuck. So if we get time, I'm going to show you again one of many methods that you can do it if you're only doing a one-off. But the chuck has many, it is fiddly, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. It's 2.5 kilos, so it's a heavy bit of kit, and it needs to be heavy because when we say off-centered or eccentric, it means you know what happens if you put a bit of wood on your lathe and it's out of balance, how the lathe shakes. My lathe must weigh several hundredweight, and yet you've only got a little bit off balance. Although I got it bolted to the floor, I had to. It still shakes and puts the fear of God in you if you've forgot to put the speed down to slow instead of that. So it's got that. That goes inside, and this has the degrees from 0, which is in parallel with the lathe bed, up to an offset of 35 degrees. I know that's probably going over a lot of your heads. It does mine. And basically, there are 3 methods of holding your various projects, and I'll show you the different sort of project. There's so many things you can do. All these words, all these various, I made a note of some polygonal, hexagonal, octagonal, dodecahedral things, which don't mean much, but they're like 12-sided, the dodecahedron or whatever. And you can do all sorts of things, like table legs, which, would be an oval and then coming down if you were doing a small table or stool. And many, many things. I haven't done anywhere near what it can do. It will put the fear of God up some of you, but you'll find once you get into it, and I hope it don't go wrong tonight. I'll just pass these round so you can see. These two I did in the week because I haven't done this. Jerry, sorry, mate. I haven't done this for a long, long time, and I haven't bothered to sand them. They were just the off-centre, small off-centre goblet. There are three ways of holding the wood. Today we're going to use a screw chuck, or tonight. But you can also do it with a offset side. These are the things that can do all these dahida-dodadums that I mentioned earlier on. This works by that being screwed onto the piece, and then you offset that, and you can move it around. You can also move the angles around and on there. And then there's a faceplate, a traditional faceplate for doing. You could do what I'm doing on a faceplate, but that's not what we're going to do. And how you basically hold things, it has this what they call the boss. It's got markings all on it with the different degrees. That fits into the main chuck. But before you do that, you have to put the whatever you're going to use, either the faceplate or what have you, onto the screw, and the screw goes into the boss. Why they call it a boss, I'm not quite certain. And then it goes into there. Now, if you look at that, every time you move that, and you do have this way, it's a bit fiddly, you get a different angle, as well as the degrees on it. But it's not as complicated as it appears, but it is fiddly. I've mastered some of it, although I hope it don't go wrong tonight. But, you know, some of it is a bit. And I'll show you the three different things. I think it's 4 different things. That using the one which I was showing you, which fits on there, you can do these shapes. But you can do many, many other shapes. That's a candlestick. I did go a little bit thin there. Another time I'd leave it slightly big. You can have a small candle or a big wooden, 2 wooden candles. But can I pass that round? Sorry, Jerry. I won't pass the candle round. And again, that's with this one that is off centre. So if you can imagine, you use the tailstock on that. It's being held in the tailstock end, like so, and that is on this end, which means you can hold it at angles like that, and this sort of thing. Again, it's a bit hairy when you're doing it, but it does make. I've got to start experimenting. I've had it quite a while, but it's got to start making. The other things you can do, and I'll hand these around, is you can do, again, with the faceplate and these different measurements, you can come up with unusual things like that. You can do bigger than this. There is a limit, I suspect, to what size you could do with it, but I've used it a lot for the coves and the offsets. Could I... But you need a different holding method for each one of those type of things. And just before you sit down, mate. The last one, you can do things. I think I've got an elastic. The elastic band's broke. Well, I'll hand it round without the elastic band, but it's gone a bit loose at the top. But again, you can make, this is a box, you can make scallop shapes. Now, I know the bald turner made a similar sort of thing the other week, But if you remember, and I don't think as many in this room could do it, it took him a long time to get the jam chuck right to hold. He made a darn good job of it because he did hold it, but I suspect most of us would be under the old thing, I'll take a little bit more, I'll take a little bit more. It's still tight, I'll take a little bit more, and then it's as loose as anything, your jam chuck's no good. That's my experience anyway. So I'll hand this round as well, but that's the 4 types of things that I've done with it. So what we're going to make tonight, hopefully, is using the screw chuck, and I've already put a small spigot on this and brought it around just to speed things up a bit. As I say, you put this in the boss first. The boss goes into the main body, and it's quite a heavy little thing, but it's because it needs to be. And there's a window here, so at the moment I will want it to be on 0. So it's quite clearly marked. There's a little window and you can see the various degrees that you're going to be offset. So 0 is parallel with the laid beds, and that's how we're going to start it. Once you've got it in there, this is the fiddly bit, is you have to tighten 2 grub screws to hold the boss into the main body of the chuck. I know it sounds bloody awful what I'm saying, but it's not as quite as fiddly as I'm making out. So I'll put this away. They're not cheap like any chuck, you know, but it's a Sorby one, and I do think most of us consider Sorby to be one of the Rolls-Royce types. I've looked at others, and they all seem a bit more complicated even than the Sorby one. The only one I haven't been able to sort of see was Simon Hope, and lots of us will know Simon Hope, and he's a genius in the wood turning things, and he's designed one, but it is a lot more expensive than the Sorby one. But I would imagine if he's designed it, it's so I'm screwing this on. You need the ends to be flat. It's not as flat as it should be.
I've got an Axminster one, Harvey, which wasn't as expensive as that.
Oh, is it good? Oh, right.
It probably hasn't got the range of eccentricity
Yeah.
that's got on it.
No. Excuse me a minute. I don't know whether I drilled the hole deep enough, but I'm looking for the... Oh, I don't... Sorry, I was just looking for the pipe grips to put it on. This is a fairly soft wood. It is a hardwood species, but it is very soft. It makes it a bit easier for demonstrating. But they suggest you need it's best to do it with a close-grained wood. Anything like teak, I have brought some along, but I don't think I'll get time to do it. This is a little bit open grained, but it's still, it's made out of that stuff I pass round. So at the moment, I'm just going to make a small goblet, so I'm not going to take a lot of time on it. I'm just going to do the goblet bit at the end, and then we'll do the offset bits like I've shown you. You have to be aware that you've got a screw chuck in. So I know that to be about 30, just under 30 mil. So you'd mark, it's best if you mark that, because if you can't part off, obviously, if you've got a screw chuck in there. But to be quite honest, if you perhaps didn't notice, but on the ones I pass round, it's sometimes nice just to put if you've got the odd bit of a different colour wood, like I've stuck a bit of ebony in that one, it does make, it means you can part it off closer and just put something in it, and then on that, like a little sander I've got, you just do the bottom like so. But anyhow, I'll see how it goes. It's still not quite enough. I don't think I drilled the hole quite deep enough. That was the failing the plan is planning to fail. That's what they taught us. So I'm going to do the, I'll just move this out of the way a bit. I'm just going to do the goblet, and I always find it handy, and I would advise you to do this. I find it handy to drill a small hole, which gives you an indication where you're going with the your depth of your goblet. I'm using a small spur drill, which I just put on a handle, and it's better. But if you want to, you can use your Jacob's chuck and put a drill in that and just drill that how you would do on the lathe. But this just saves a little bit of time. But you remember, if you're using a spur drill, you've got to take account of that little point that you'll have to get out the bottom of your goblet head. I bet I haven't bought any tape, but I normally put a bit of tape on it, but I did bring it, but I'll have to straighten it up a bit. It didn't go in the So I've just tidied that up. I thought it would be all right, but it isn't. You can see how that tiny bit out of balance, you can hear the noise and see what it's doing. You can see, and that's only a fraction of a millimetre or so. So I'm using a gouge, spindle gouge, not a gouge, roughing tool. Don't forget, if you're not familiar with the roughing gauge, you can get a nice finish by using it on that edge. As opposed to that, if you want a smooth finish, you can just use that, keep your handle low as you can get it. You can see that you can feel the difference between that end is rough because I'm using that. Now I'm hoping I'll be able to drill the hole. I said it was softwood, it's harder than I thought. I'm not going to be too fussy about the what type of goblet it is, because you'd probably need a slightly bigger bit of wood to, slightly wider if you were going to make a proper goblet. This is just to show you what it can do. There's a number of different methods you can use for hollowing it, but the one that initially I'm going to do is one where you just use a spindle gauge. That's about just 3/8, and you bring it in pointing to 11 o'clock. So this is your clock, 1, 2, 3, 11. Point it at 11, keep your handle low, get the cut. I might have to take it off. So get your handle low, pointing to 11 o'clock. I'm getting that noise simply because it's quite a long piece of wood, and it's not really, it needs supporting here, but there's no way we can do that. But you do need sharp tools. I'll take it off. As long as you keep it at 11 o'clock and keep it down so it's rubbing on the bevel. When we talk about that, for the beginners, that bit at the side is the bevel. And you must always have a bevel, whether it's resting on just a millimetre of the bevel at the point or a millimetre on the side. It has to rub to support the cut. That's why you get a catch, is because you put the cutting edge straight into the wood without it being supported by the bevel. I'm sorry with all you experience, guys, but I'm just trying to. This is when that light's handy. I can't see very much. You can use other things if you wish. You can use a scraper, certainly to finish it off. Again, when you use a scraper, unless it's got a negative scrape, which means it has two bevels, with this traditional bevel, just straight up, you have to have it in the trailing position. And just light cuts. I think the bit of wood might be a bit long, actually. Or even different to that, for any beginner, this BCT one with the rest is a brilliant tool for, don't know if I can get in there with this, but the benefit of the BCT, even things much bigger than this, is that it gives you a tool rest, which takes the problem. A lot of tools, the cutting tools, you have to make sure you're holding them at the right angle. With this, you can take this off if you had to go deeper, because there's only a limit. You can only go that deep. But again, it's quite a nice little tool. There's one other one, if I can find it. This is, I don't know, I bought this off, oh, this is BCT as well. Quite a nice little, again, a nice little scraper for getting around the corners. One of the nicest. Can't you? Sorry, John, I can't hear. Oh, right. Oh, right. Well, I'm surprised. One of the best ones, if anybody's thinking, I mean, none of these are cheap, but the Sorby RS 200, which starts off as this, I've got a cove tool on it differently, but that little one, which you use like that holds a pick tool. So does the BCT one. That holds a pick tool plus brilliant scrapers for bowls and that. I've got one on a real big one about that long, but this is called the RS 200. Oh. Sorry about that. I wasn't thinking. So this one, I think, again is BCT, so you can't get it. But this finishes off. And again, that's just at the right angle. But as I say, if you want to buy one, I think they're about £100, but you can hollow with them, you can scrape with them. And that was my first hollowing tool. And it's quite a good tool. I'm not going to bother the sun because I realise we're running short of time. So basically that's the hollow cup of the, I should have actually made a bit shorter than that. It's got a bit of a wobble. We're now going to put the shape of the head of the goblet. I just wanted to check how deep we are. This is a little marking gauge, it just comes with that, but I put a bit of this sort of Bakelite on because if you're doing bowls with it, there's only a certain depth you can go to. It does cut, you know, you can get it across wider bits. So I don't want to go any lower than that. At this stage, you would sand and seal. You have to, when you're doing offset, you have to sand and seal as you go along. So you'd have to, once you got that shape, you'd have to sand and seal. I'm just going to take that down a little bit farther with the roughing gauge, because I don't want the offsets to be There's some quite nice shapes with goblets. Again, Pinterest, I recommend any of you to go on the site and look at some of their stuff. You know, people put on. Just to show Barry that I can use a skew. Not as good as you, mind, but I can use it. There's quite a bit of wobble on this. Now, this is the first of the coves. That's all we're making now, coves. But this will be done, the first one is going to be done in parallel. Sorry, I just want to double check them. Yeah. So, Sorby on their little demonstration suggest that you use a cove cutter. I'm going to show you one in a minute, but I'm not. I prefer to use the This is the first of the coves, and you have to decide how thick you're going to have the stems, because they have to be of a, well, they don't have to be, but they need to be of a uniform thickness. This is the cove cutter, which Sorby recommend. Of course, they want to sell you it, which is quite good. That wasn't very good, hang on. It's upset, yeah, stop it, don't take them fun. No, I think I was too adventurous and had it too, it's come loose, and I think it was a little bit too long, actually. I'm not going to use the cove cut, but that was what it is. With the speeds, you can have it as fast as you like now. The faster it is, the better. When we go on to the offsets, you have to slow it down a bit. I'm not going to get time to sand and seal, but if I was going to sand, I'll just show you. I use these little sanding sticks. I've got them somewhere here. I've got a small basket, like thing, and I've got loads and loads of different pieces of wood. But these little sanding sticks, I just saw somebody with that shape, and I put some Velcro on the end, and you'll find you have to sand each one. You can sand it with it going, but you sand each one. Or you can use just a piece of round piece of doweling, and again, it's easier than sanding by hand anyhow. But now I'm going to set the first offset at 10 degrees. So to do that, I have to change the boss. So I have to undo the two screws in and move it from 0 in the window. I know it sounds complicated, but it isn't. But it's fiddly. I just have to move that. If you're going to do some of those other things I pass round, then you have to do it slightly different. But this is the easy one. There's a window in here, and I'm now going to move that onto 10, like so, and tighten up the 2 grub screws. It must be nerves, I think. I never have this trouble at home. So now we cut it, we have to slow the speed down a bit. Yes, yeah. And you also have to make sure you test it beforehand, because the rest will move. So as you can see, it's 10 degrees off, not a lot. So we're now cutting another groove, another cove, I should say, the same size. I don't know whether to try. I haven't got a very good hold on this end, so I'm a bit concerned about, doing it with the cove cutter, but it is handy having the light, because you can see, when we're talking about ghosting, that is ghosting. It's like seeing a propeller go around. So you have to come in gentle. And if you want all the coves the same width, again, all those I showed you, like that Christmas decoration we parked around, they're all done like this. But it is easier if you've got a light, you can see. You might think, I don't want to try that, but once you master confidence, it's not too bad. You need to, as I said, to make sure that you get your pieces there the same height, the same width. I've got a little way to go. Sorry, I'm not talking, but I'm concentrating. I know it's like watching paint dry, but... You rotten lot. Right, I'm going to carry on, but forget about the goblet bit. Those, I didn't have any trouble with those two I passed round. This was a bit longer. I wouldn't have come here if I'd known you would take them, Mick. Right, I'm going to do another one. This one...
Was that if he was though?
Eh?
Was that if he would? Should we blame it on the if he would?
Yeah, got it, haven't I? Yeah. That rarely happens, actually. Right, we're going to turn the next one at 15. You know, I don't know quite why it did it, but it did. Perhaps they're right, perhaps it does...
I know you've done this is Harvey. Brilliant books on us, but you don't go very well when it's up.
What's that? I'll try it with a different gauge. Would it hurt if I put that light here? Thank you, Richard. I had it somewhere there just so I could see it. Oh, good. It's just handy to see. You can see.
Yeah. So we can cope with it.
Okay. Is it turned on?
I think so.
Oh yeah, that's all right then.
It's lost its strength.
I don't know. It's been all right.
Whereas this seems to be wobbling away. Oh. Okay. Sorry, Mike.
It's got to be on.
Got it the wrong way.
Yeah, it needs tightening up the nut. When it fell off, it's got loose. Well, leave it. I can manage without it.
Should be better.
Yeah, you can't quite see properly if
No, sorry.
without the light. Oh, that'll do.
Is that better?
Yeah. I didn't, this wasn't flat enough on the, I think you've got the idea. Yeah, you've got the idea. I'm going to take that off. Is it that time? Oh yeah, it is. I'll very quickly show you the method that, for doing it without the chuck. It's a shame that's happened. I think what I didn't get that flat enough. It didn't get seated and it was a bit too long anyhow. Yeah, you're probably right. I'll very quickly show you the idea anyhow between.
You're supposed to say now, here's one I've done earlier.
Oh yeah, those two I showed you I did this week. Thought I better get familiar with it because I haven't used it for a while. It is quite a nice bit of kit, but I didn't have it seated properly and that's what's buggered me up. My fault. Four minutes. With this one, this is a slightly shorter bit of wood. This is what I made with that about 10 or more years ago, just using this method. So that was the birdhouse, so I did the top and the bottom with that. What is suggested, it's something I got off the internet. They suggest you do a 3/8, that's just over about 10 mil spigot on the end. I just hope it fits in there. And you number your jaws 1 to 4. And on there, as you're numbering your jaws, you mark those pieces 1, 2, 3, 4. And you start off with 1. With it fully seated. Should have done it a bit bigger. I'll just want to quickly check on that. I'll be quick, Clive, honest.
Well, I think if everyone helps this needs to help, that's how you get another 20 minutes, mate.
I haven't done this. This was a long time ago. Well, basically, you turn the first one like I did. The birdhouse is going to sit on there, so you put a small, if you're making the birdhouse, a small spigot. Again, the first, so you've got your spigot there, we'll say that's your spigot. So the first one is, I should have used wood like this. That's your first one. To get your offsets, you then, what do I do with it? I'm panicking now. I don't know what I did with the... Oh, here it is. Less ice, more speed. You bring the number 1 on your jaws out about 1/8 of an inch, about 3 mil. Just like that, so it's down. Oh, that's moved. So you bring it out slightly like that and then tighten. You can go, the more you go, the more it, this is the offset. Make sure you've got clear on your chuck. Less ice, more speed. If it does it again, I promise I'll give up. So the next one is it's best if you've got the light there, you can see through the ghosting. I'm not going to be fussy. The next, you then go to number 2. I won't go any farther than this. It needed a bit more, but you can see the idea behind it. So you then seat it back in the chuck so that number 2 is roughly 1/8, about 3 mil. Sticking out. So you can see you don't need an expensive chuck unless you're going to do lots of other things with it. I'll wrap up after this. So now we've got a different offset to that one. There's also some really good stuff on the internet that you can do without jigs or anything for getting all these different shapes. I've got quite a lot of information on it if anybody was interested. Last one, I did say that one, but I'm just going to do one more and it will show you the the thing. So you now move on to number 3. Reseat it in there and put it slightly out. If you wanted it a bit more, you could have a longer spigot and get it more. Oh, I better do it tight, it's going to pop out again. Last one. And if you wanted to finish it off, say that was it, you only wanted that little bit on, you stop it, put it back fully seated in the chuck, and then you do a parallel, you end up with it there. So I'll just do that. I know I said one more, but old Jerry's gone to sleep. Oh, don't blame me, mate. Last one, promise. So this is basically parallel. This is a nice bit of wood for... I'll just see if that cove cutter... Oh yeah, thank you very much. This was one I'd not used before, this small one. So whether that's why I messed it up, but they do it with when they on the demonstration video. On the demonstration video, they do it. I suppose it's not bad once you get into it. Sorry to have taken up your going home time.
Does that have a normal sort of scraping type?
Yes, yeah. You can use it for other things actually, but this is the RS200, which is an absolute smashing little tool. Good hollowing tool, good scraping tool and things. I think if I'd have had the right wood like I've got now, that is not a bad finish. So that, you don't have to waste all your money on this fancy chuck. You can do it like that. And the other thing I was saying, just to finish up, on the end of these things, if you just put, you square it and find the centre, and just put, say, 3 lines, one in the centre, holes I should say, one in the centre, one about just a few mil off either side, keep the tailstock, use the tailstock where it is, you'll get some fantastic shapes like that, and all these things. So you can, I mean, I've got if anybody wanted to try it, I'll give you a copy of the thing that's out one of those magazines years ago, but it makes all sorts of different sizes just by the slightest, 3 mil will give you, and if you do it with more than that, you get it. Anyhow, sorry to have kept you too long. That's it.